ES Audio.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio, supported by Fuller's London Pride, official beer of Premiership Rugby. Support with pride.
Hello and welcome to the Evening Standard Rugby Podcast, supported by Fuller's London Pride. I'm Lawrence Dallaglio.
And I'm Sarra Elgan, and we're joined as ever by Steve Corden from the Evening Standard. Hi, Steve.
Good morning. How are we both?
We're good. A bit tired, but good. Yes, Lol, are we tired?
A little bit tired, but we shan't complain.
And also, all the way from New Zealand, getting ready to kick off England's campaign at the Women's Rugby World Cup, we are delighted to welcome Saracens and Red Roses back row, Marlie Packer. Hi, Marlie.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Thank you so much for being with us.
No worries at all.
Really appreciate it. And a belated happy birthday, I hear. Yes, it's your birthday on Sunday.
Yeah, that's correct. So actually,
happy
you
birthday.
can see the banners in behind. So yeah, but once you hit 30, you go backwards. So I was actually 29, guys.
Are you allowed to eat any cake at this stage with a week to go?
Yeah, I think a small treat was given out to the whole team, which was quite nice. We've had a couple of birthdays in camp, so but they've only been small.
Okay, yeah, in preparation for what's to come, I guess. Steve, aside from watching the rugby, how was your weekend?
Not great, actually. I'm facing a vote of no confidence, unfortunately, as my assistant manager of my under-12s football team, my son. We've had a couple of bad weekends, 9-1 last weekend and 9-0 yesterday. So if my phone rings, it may well be that I've got a call from the chairman and I'm out. So before I resign, anyway.
Lawrence, you were in North East England on Friday night.
I was.
You don't go up there very often.
I was.
You don't travel that far from London.
I know. Do you know what? Just thinking about sideline, what made me laugh yesterday, I was at Harlequins with you, and there was two mascots, and Tabai Matson, the Harlequins director of rugby, was saying hello to the mascots before the game. And they were having a lovely little chat, and I just overheard it. And at the end, the mascot said, by the way, we need a win today, yeah? It was just wonderful, putting the pressure on the head coach. But anyway, more about Harlequins later on, for sure.
Yeah, I like your coat as well, Sarah, despite what Ugo said. I did like it.
Well, basically, Ugo called me a witch. Marlie, I was wearing like a really nice orange coat. Yeah. And Ugo was like, "Oh, happy Halloween, Sarah," because apparently, like, I look like, I know that's so bad, isn't it?
Yeah, really bad again.
He also called me Sabrina, the middle-aged witch, which went down really poorly.
But he was wearing his wife's coat, so you're okay. I mean, yours wasn't your husband's, was it?
Okay, let's get our focus firmly back on pitch matters then, shall we? And then have a proper chat with Marlie Law.
Don't forget, you can also watch the full extended video podcast at londonpridebeer.co.uk. Please drink responsibly.
Marlie, just for those who don't know, you've got 84 caps for England, one World Cup title already to your name. And of course, you guys runners-up in 2017. It's been a huge year for you already and the team with record-breaking crowds at the Six Nations. I mean, I can't quite believe it, but you guys have been unbeaten in 25 games, which is amazing. Well done to you all. You must be feeling fairly confident without being overconfident ahead of the first pool match on Saturday. Is it Fiji, I think, on Saturday?
Yeah, the first pool game against Fiji. Obviously, coming into this World Cup and get the bounce of 25 games, like, we are confident, but we, as a group, we know we're only as good as our last game, and we've got to take Fiji. This is the first time that they've been in a World Cup for a very long time. So we need to make sure that we give them credit for being here and making sure that we put the performance out, and it's a good performance by us, that we don't come off the pitch saying we left things out there, left tries out there.
I know that you guys have been given professional contracts. You're one of the first women's teams to have fully professional contracts, even though they couldn't quite manage a business class seat out to the World Cup for you all, which is, we'll talk about that later on. How much difference do you think the professional contracts has made? And is there a number of other teams that are all on contracts, or is it just the Red Roses?
For us, like as Red Roses, it's massive to have the contracts. It just means that we can be professional, recover well, getting the right S&C, nutrition in, just actually having time together as a core squad of us. Obviously, us all being contracted and then playing for different club teams, it's when we come back to England, there's a lot of banter going on and everything else, but it's really good. I think other nations are putting contracts running up to this World Cup, and hopefully that, part of the legacy of this World Cup, that other nations will be able to carry on that and keep growing the game. But, you know, the RFU are championing the way with it at the moment. So, and I'm really privileged and lucky that I'm a player that's managed to have a full-time contract. But for me, I've had a contract for quite a few years through the RFU, through different playing sevens as well as playing 15s.
Yeah, you've got to read the small print in those contracts. I can tell you that for sure. Marlie, I don't know if everyone has seen it, but it's been very well received. There's been a documentary on ITV about the Red Roses this week showing the preparations. I think it's just magnificent. One, to have it on ITV, but two, just to elevate the women's game. I mean, and for us to get to know you all. What was it like having the cameras on you guys, or was it something you didn't really think about, or was it were some more nervous than others?
I think it was very different. Like we always usually have a video camera guy with us, but he's more like a fly on the wall, and he's just become part of the team, Liam has. But to have the cameras in, like the mics where they're standing over you, you're doing a team huddle at the end of training, you've either got a cameraman in the middle of it and a mic over the top. It was very different. But actually, we just trusted in what they were going to do for us, and it was about not painting us in a good light, but like actually what they want to show, and they gave us briefings, so we just trusted in what it was.
Now listen, apart from the physical side of the game, there's much more conversation now, Marlie, around the importance of mental well-being for players, which is super important, isn't it? Thank goodness there is more chat around that now. And you're an ambassador for the charity Brave Mind.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's a charity that launched in March in 2021. It's just about supporting rugby community, basically. I've had highs and lows in my rugby career, and you know, for me to be able to support a charity and like be able to give off some of the journeys I've had is why I decided to be a part of it. It's more for like grassroots rugby, and then being able to give off stories and just training them with the mental health first aid, the MHFA. So it's just being able to be a positive group that people can feel that they can get in touch with, and then might be able to point them in the right direction of talking to someone like myself or other athletes that might have been going through the same kind of stuff.
Well done, Marlie. I think that's brilliant. For one, for being an ambassador, two, for speaking out about it, and three, for encouraging everyone to do the same. And I think that's brilliant. Obviously, New Zealand are mad about rugby. I mean, is there a sense that the Women's World Cup, in and around Auckland, are you feeling a bit of support out there, either from England fans or from New Zealand? Is there a sense that the tournament's kicking off pretty soon?
Yeah, there's definitely a buzz around here. I think they've sold 30,000 plus tickets for the opening day. So, like, that's awesome in itself. Like, they've got the advertisement where it flashes up different advertisements. So the World Cup's up on that, like, through the Auckland main centre in through the roads. I did actually a running session today, and as I came back there, it was flashing up, which, just makes you smile because you're being a part of that, and it's just something really special. But at the moment, there's a lot of rain going on here, so I'm hoping that dries up before it kicks off on Saturday.
Okay, should we talk about the Premiership action then this weekend? Should we get on to that?
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio, supported by Fuller's London Pride, official beer of Premiership Rugby.
Lawrence, you were up in Newcastle, as I said earlier, on Friday night. The Falcons, who were sitting bottom of the table, they welcomed Bristol Bears, who are at the top. And Dave Walder's men managed to get their first win of the season and bring the Bears' winning streak to a crushing end, actually. Did you see that coming?
No, I didn't see it coming. That's not to say that we weren't all delighted with the fact that Newcastle won. Dave Walder is a good friend of mine anyway. He's just taken over the reins, as you know, as head coach, which is from Dean Richards, big act to follow. And so for him personally, I'm delighted, because I think when you're a director of rugby, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress on you. And I think for him to get his first win as a head coach outright certainly takes the monkey off his back a little bit. And I thought they were brilliant. They were good value for their win. Bristol coming into the game unbeaten. It's obviously a long journey from the southwest right the way up to Newcastle, but they didn't start anywhere near well enough. And I was thrilled to bits for him. He obviously had a lot of new players coming in, the two Argentinian centres, Matthias Moroni. He looked fantastic. And then they had the player in the match in Mateo Carreras, really. So, yeah, really pleased for them. And, sent Bristol, back without that unbeaten record.
What about Lawrence Dallaglio's 100-metre run at half-time? Surely that was the highlight of the game, wasn't it?
Well, you know what? We wanted to do a demo and we set up on the wrong side of the pitch, and it wasn't until about 30 seconds before we came back from the ad break that we realised that. Anyway, Craig is basically a rugby player that's, that wishes he was still playing, to be honest.
He is such a frustrated professional rugby player. Yeah. He is unreal. But he did skin you though, Lawrence. He
did, but he was also completely out of breath when we came back on air.
He was blowing.
So anyway, I told him that I don't need any more medals. I'm fine, mate. Don't worry. Okay.
You definitely don't need any more medals, any more titles. Steve, on to Saturday's game then. I guess from last week, Luke Cowan-Dickey, he got the opening score, didn't he, for Exeter? And say he'll be delighted with that. But the Chiefs didn't manage to pull off the away win that you predicted, Steve.
No, I got that one a bit the wrong way round, didn't I? So I need to score the last try, not the first one. I mean, the Chiefs will be disappointed not to come away with at least a losing bonus point. I mean, they had more of the territory, more of the possession, but Sale were just so physical, particularly in the breakdown. And I think the one thing that's impressed everybody is just how much they're holding it together at the start of the season. I think last season they struggled a bit at the beginning, and that's where it ultimately cost them. But they've ended a 4-game losing streak against Exeter. And I don't think any of us, we didn't do any predictions at the start of the season, did we? But I don't think any of us would have had Sale in the top 4. And now looking at it, I think they're pretty much, we've only had 4 rounds, but I'd say they're one of the favourites to finish in one of those top 4 positions.
Yeah, they look good. London Irish hosted Bath, and there were more hat-tricks for Ollie Haslett-Collins and Ben Loader, which helped the exercise. I think it was 47-38, was it the final score? Marlie, we've got to love these high-scoring games in the Gallagher Premiership at the moment. For all this going on off the field of play, and we hope that that'll get sorted. On the field of play at the moment, it is so entertaining.
Yeah, and that's what fans want to see, and that's what they're going to come into the stadiums to come watch. And hat tricks all over the place. Like, players just look like they're really enjoying it out there at the moment. So yeah, no, that's definitely what we want to see.
And Lola and I, we were speaking pitch side yesterday at Quinn's, just you saying, that's what the fans want to see is entertaining rugby, 100%. And we were talking about how Marcus Smith had spoken in the week about that, he feels it's the players' responsibility to make it entertaining for the fans. So I think what we're seeing now is players actually kind of speaking out about things like that, where we haven't actually had that, have we, really, over the years? It's quite refreshing.
Yeah, very. I mean, I suppose I played in an era possibly where the players weren't too quiet, that's for sure, on and off the field, and they were prepared to speak up. And I think there's a lot of strong personalities playing the game. We just don't hear enough from them. And rugby has a big audience, but it needs to get bigger. And the only way it's going to get bigger and grow is if people get to know the players and the superstars of the game. So I'm a big advocate of that. The rugby over the opening 4 rounds of the Premiership have been fantastic. The product has been amazing, whether that's to do with the weather, which has been slightly warmer, the ground's a little bit harder. I think the tackle height, Stuart Barnes wrote a really interesting piece in the paper recently about the fact that players now are lowering their tackle height because they have to stay on the field. And as a result of that, I think there's a lot more offloading happening in the men's game anyway. So really interesting. I mean, there's been so many different scores across the league. I mean, London Irish were 35 points to 5 up at half time. So, amazing when they've got the talent they've got. I suppose if you're a Bath fan, you haven't got much to cheer about coming up to Christmas. But the fact that it was 35-5 at half time and it wasn't, the score wasn't doubled in the second half, I guess is something you can cling on to. It actually finished quite close. And we're seeing a lot of that, aren't we, where teams are going out to massive leads at one set and then suddenly they're reined back in. So not quite sure what's happening, whether it's players speaking out, whether it's the tackle height, whether it's the weather, but keep it going, please, because it's really, really exciting. And, we saw, cracking games over the weekend.
I'm just still hanging on that line you just said about coming up to Christmas. We're only in October. We're always to go for Christmas. Okay,
I'm not expecting Bath to win before Christmas. That's why.
Oh, you're going to be getting some hate mail. Right, Steve. In North London, Saracens managed 7 tries against the champions Leicester Tigers, and it was a brilliant performance by them. They were so impressive, and they have been impressive in the 3 games that they played. They're just looking pretty unstoppable at the moment.
They are. I mean, wow, what a contrast to the team that we saw playing in the Premiership final. I mean, they're now the running from deep, the offloading, as Lawrence says, it's just all over the place. The run lines in from the likes of Jamie George, it's just been fantastic to watch. And they're playing with much, much quicker ball as well. I think Van Zyl and Youngs are clearly been told to get the ball out as quickly as they can. But I have to say, how good was Theo McFarland?
Good.
Unbelievable. I mean, I would love to have seen the basketball team that he played in for Samoa, because they must have been some amazing athletes. But did you manage to get a translation of what he said to you at the end of the game? Because he said it so quick.
What do you think, Steve? I can barely speak English. So no, I didn't get a translation.
I think he probably was saying, this is such an honour to talk to you, Sarah. I've been waiting for this my whole career.
Yeah.
And hello to everyone in Samoa. How's that?
I think he said, I think you should go with the orange coat tomorrow.
Marlie, you obviously know the boys there. You know the coaching staff, and Steve's right that they have changed their approach this season. We've seen it, that they're playing with much more ambition, and it's almost that they've done it like without fuss. They've almost done it like seamlessly in the off season. How difficult, or I don't know, maybe easy is that? Because it's not something that's been in this side's DNA, is it?
I think they would have reflected on how they played in the final last year and how the end of the Premiership ended last year. And, I think Saracens are very good at talking about it, having a team building day about it with a few drinks and then putting it out on the pitch. And they've definitely done that. And the tries are not just coming in from one or two players, like the whole squad are getting behind the line. Like you seen Jamie George last week. Why didn't you pass the ball to me? And it went straight across him to Ben Earl, and Ben Earl was again on the try scoring list. So, it's really good to see. And I just think like at Saracens, we just have a way, like we love to win. And I think the boys and the girls, we just follow suit with that. And they've come out this season. They've been phenomenal.
Yeah, very impressive. Okay, so Lawrence, it was a very strong start for Quins, again, at the Stoop Sunday afternoon. And with 15 minutes to go, it kind of looked like it was going to be a pretty straightforward win for them. But as we've come to expect in this league, you can't be sure of anything really. So the final whistle, Northampton came back into the game, and it made for an intense and exciting finish.
I don't think I've seen a game quite like it for a while, really. Until the day before. But it's just unbelievable what was going on. I mean, Quins obviously had a chat after the Exeter game, realised that they gave themselves a mountain to climb, which they nearly did against the Chiefs. So they came out much quicker. And as you said, first couple of minutes of the game, they're 2 tries to the good, 14-3. They look like they're absolutely going to run away with it. Northampton just didn't wake up. They couldn't catch a cold. They made so many mistakes, and yet they created so many opportunities. I think their handling errors and their turnovers together were something over 25, nearly 30 when you put them all together. So that, combined with the fact that they missed 3 tries over the line, they dropped the ball over the line 3 times, or they didn't score. So quite how they were in the game, one only knows. But we went down the final stretch with them just needing 1 score, and they potentially could win the game and snatch it away from do a Harlequins to Quins, really. So amazingly exciting rugby for everyone. Quins ended up with 5 points, Saints with 2. And I think Phil Dowson will be thinking that there's a really good side in there, Saints. And if they click and they get it right, they're going to wallop someone. Just hope it's not Wasps next weekend, really. But they're in good shape, and I really enjoyed the game, as he said, and a lot of players right across the board that played very, very well.
Steve, I'm just getting really bored with Lawrence banging out stats and week after week. So I've got one of my own for you now. The average points scored in those games that Quins have been involved in, 69 points. And 19 Quins players have now got on the score sheet this season. And we're round 4? Have that, Lawrence Dallaglio.
Very good, Sarah. But yeah, I was thinking, do I go with the orange coat, the green, or do I go with the... How many different coats have you worn, actually, Sarah? That's the stat I think.
I don't know, and they all look awful according to you lot. Anyway, right.
I'll give you another one. Then there's 14 matches now that London Irish have been involved in that were 50 points or more, and 5 of those were 70. So clearly, you do not want to be a defence coach in the Premiership at the moment, because your job's almost impossible.
Yeah, you definitely do, that's for sure. Tabai said something similar, didn't he, after the game yesterday? Okay, well, I'll get your thinking caps on then, because it's time to decide which player of the weekend you think was outstanding.
Outstanding. Supported by Fuller's London Pride.
Steve, who was your outstanding player of the weekend?
Well, I'm going to go back to Saracens. it could have been one of a number of players, but I'm actually going to go for Ben Earl. I thought in the first half he was magnificent. He seemed to be all over the pitch, scored a try, making tackles, making breaks. It was a toss-up, really, whether it was him or Theo McFarlane for me that was man of the match, but I'm going to go with Ben Earl.
I'm going to go with Theo, I think, because it was just like a pretty complete performance, wasn't it? He scored, he carried, line-outs of class. He just gives them that perfect attacking platform, and some of his takes were amazing. Anyway, it's him for me.
And because he asked you out in Samoan at the end of the game.
I don't think that was the case, but yeah, we'll go with that. Lawrence, who gets your vote?
Well, I can't believe you've missed Elliot Daly off that list. I thought he was the outstanding player on that pitch. And he's a player that I've given a fair bit of stick to. Nothing to do with the fact he left Wasps and joined Saracens or anything like that. But I thought he was magnificent. Really, really was back to his very best. But he's not the outstanding player of the weekend, because I'm a little bit biased, but I think that has to go to Dave Walder as an ex-player and as a coach, because I think, we like to mark special moments in anyone's career. And I think to win your first Premiership game as head coach against the odds, against the team at the top of the league, to do it in the way that they did it by scoring all those wonderful tries. I think Dave Walder, he hasn't got the biggest budget in the world, but he's trying to really work with what he's got and trying to change maybe the way that Newcastle Falcons play. So he's my outstanding player of the week, Dave Walder.
Okay, Marlie, who would you like to nominate as your outstanding player?
Well, I'm going to go Ben Earl. I just love how he plays, and that's exactly what he did this weekend. So yeah, he's going to be my player of the weekend.
Marlie, just I think Steve mentioned it. Is this your third Rugby World Cup? Just give everyone an insight. I mean, presumably, as the more experienced person in the squad, there's Red Roses that are playing for the very first time in New Zealand as well, which can be quite daunting. What sort of advice have you been giving any of those players, or just maybe going for coffee or having a few little chats with them? How many debutants have you got in the squad actually?
To a World Cup, I don't actually know the number, but there's probably a good 12 of them. But right. I feel that you just check in. But my main thing is for them to just enjoy it. Like, if you're enjoying what you're doing on and off the pitch, then actually we get the best version of you on the pitch. And, World Cups don't come around that often. And, you're at one over in New Zealand. A few of the girls had never even been on an aeroplane over 4 hours before. So just the travel in itself was mega. So for them to actually be here, just enjoy it. And, you've done all the hard work running into it. Now it's actually just showcasing it because the whole world's watching it.
You'll be flying home business class, don't worry, when you've won the World Cup, I'm sure.
First class after winning the World Cup.
You'll be flying, I know that much.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at the lineup for round 5 then, maybe make a few predictions. Right, a nice little West Country derby of sorts to kick things off. Bristol, Exeter, lol, that's going to be a good one, right? Friday night?
I'm really excited because my son's at Bristol University, and so we're going to go down to the match, and I've obviously been going to be working, and then hopefully I'm coaching his side the next day with Alex King.
Are you?
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. I'm not really bothered about the game itself.
You've never fancied it then, Lol? Coaching?
I was never good enough to get.
He'd have no patience.
Do you know what? I would actually, but I've left it alone. I prefer working with Sarra in the media instead. Now, so to Bristol Exeter, 2 teams that have just come off the back of defeats, really. So it'll be fascinating to see what the reaction is. I think Bristol were really poor, probably the worst they played all season. They just didn't turn up at Newcastle. Exeter, I think, slightly different. They were just a bit unlucky, really, against Sale. I think they were very competitive. So, it's a close one to call. I'd like to say there'll be a huge reaction from Bristol, but so I'm expecting the home side to come out and probably get the win.
Is Ellis Genge back for that one? Is he off his another rest?
Well,
he'll be back, will he?
Who knows? But it seems that he gives them so much at the moment. Even if it's not with his performances, it's with his tweets. So we want him back on the field, really, don't we? To be honest.
Okay, Marlie. One of my favourite matchups of the season, Bath, Gloucester, mainly because I just love sitting in the stand, listening to the banter with the fans. How do you see this one going?
It's a tough one, but I think the way Bath are playing at the moment, and I know so many people at Bath, so I feel bad for saying this, but I think Gloucester are just going to edge it over them for me.
Yeah, they need to find something, don't they, at home, Bath, gents?
They've got big problems at Bath, haven't they? I mean, the one thing, I don't know how quickly these things happen, but I just saw a news feed that Ted Hill and Ollie Lawrence from Worcester are going on loan to Bath, potentially maybe one or two other players as well. And they need something. They need an injection of something because, the coach, Van Graham, has got a big job on his hands there. JP Ferreira, the defence coach. I mean, they are conceding so many points and isn't everyone, but I think culturally there is issues at that club at the minute and they need to sort it out. You can train hard. You can be technically, down on other players, but getting yourself back in off the floor and recycling yourself into the game is not about anything other than heart, absolute heart, and be prepared to suffer really on behalf of your teammates. And they look like a side that are playing for themselves and not for each other. And that's always a bit of a worry as a coach.
I think that's one thing that's evident about your Sarries team, Ali, is the culture within your squad. Like, that's evident, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the culture, it makes you want to work for one another, put your body on the line for each other. Like, you win together, you lose together, but it's so much better winning together.
Perfect. Okay, Steve, Leicester, they're going to be hurting after defeat at the Stone. Although, to be fair, Steve Borthwick, he was quite chilled post-match and he gave a little smile. How are they going to do against Alexander Sale?
I think they're going to struggle there. It's at home. I think with Steve, he did seem rather upbeat for having just been hammered, but he did. Yeah. He keeps talking about new combinations and bedding in new players, and we're just getting that. But we're now into week 4, getting to week 5, and by now we should be at least knowing what the core of his team is. You would hope that you would see it this weekend, but I think the way Sale are playing at the moment, their physicality, I just don't think Leicester will be able to live with it.
I have to disagree with you there. I don't think Leicester have lost at home since, 2019, Steve. So there's a stat for you. And you've got to be very careful when a team gets beat by 50. I probably happened to us all at some point when you get really well thumped by a side, particularly a side as good as Saracens. That's quite humbling, and I would expect a massive reaction from Leicester in front of over 20,000. So, yeah, that's a big call.
Marlie, I think this might be an easy one. I don't know. Newcastle have the pleasure of, or not pleasure, of hosting Saracens this week. Sarries win?
I think, Sarries win, but Newcastle coming on the back of their win, they're going to be well up for it. But I think Saracens are definitely going to get the win there. Okay,
last but not least, I don't know. Do I go to Lawrence for this one? Probably not, because we know what the answer is going to be. So I'll go to Steve. Sunday, Wasps, after a bye week, they welcome Saints. How easy is that one to call or not?
It's not really, is it? I think to Lowell's point earlier, if Northampton cut out the mistakes, then Wasps could well end up getting a complete humping. But will they? I don't know. I'm going to go for a draw on that one. How about that? We haven't had a draw yet.
We haven't had a draw yet.
First draw.
Tackled. Supported by Fuller's London Pride.
Time to put our guest, Marlie, back under the spotlight and tackle her with our quickfire questions. Lawrence, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, as you said, we put all our guests through the tackled questions just to really, for our listeners, to get to know them a little bit better. So, Marlie, I'll keep them short. I'll try not to interrupt you on any of them. Your full name?
Marlie Packer.
Your favourite takeaway?
Chinese.
What was the last movie that you watched?
Top Gun. The second one.
But Tom Cruise looks ridiculously, I'm sorry, I know we don't need to be talking about it in a rugby podcast, but Tom Cruise looks ridiculously young still, doesn't he? He could pass for late 20s.
I know. I want his cosmetic surgeon. That is it, really, isn't it?
I want his number.
Marlie, what are you? It's obviously 9 o'clock at night there in New Zealand, but what will you have for breakfast tomorrow morning?
Probably some kind of eggs on toast. They might allow us to have bacon, they might not. I might have a treat.
What's your nickname in the squad?
I've got a couple, Party Packer, just Packer.
Oh, I like that.
Depending on the mood.
I like that, Party Packer. I like that one. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Best advice, just keep going.
All back rows need that.
Yeah.
Who's the most famous person in your phone?
You could say Ugo, he's pretty famous, but I would say you'd love that.
No, we'll edit that bit. We'll edit that bit out. Don't worry, it's fine.
Just beep it.
I said famous.
Well, it's only because he's been on Strictly. He didn't do that well, but he's been on Strictly. That's an accomplishment, right?
Marlie, who would play you in the film about your life?
don't know if I could trust anyone to do it, to be fair. They'd want to.
They wouldn't do a good enough job.
No. I think if they had to do it, I think I'd have to do it myself.
Okay, well, no one's going to argue. Who is the funniest person you know?
I'd say Hannah Bottom's pretty funny in the squad. But then also, like, you wouldn't think it, but Lydia Thompson, the winger, she's really funny, but you've just got to break it down a little bit. If you spend quite a lot of time with her, yeah, she's real funny.
I know. They've got a lot of time on their hands, those wingers, while they're waiting for the ball. They just, a lot of think time, haven't they, really? Are you a dog or a cat person?
Dog.
And so this is Sarah's favourite question. What's your karaoke song?
I don't know. Probably Aerosmith. I don't want to miss a thing.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Like it.
Yeah.
That is such a good one.
Favourite TV show?
I like The Chase, to be fair.
What superhero would you like to be?
Superhero. Batman.
You see, I go with Mr. Invisible, which is what I think I am most of the time, to be honest with you. Your ideal dinner party guest?
Just someone that's fun. There's nothing worse than inviting someone over and they're just a bit boring.
Me and Sarah, that's it. Who's the best rugby player of all time, in your eyes?
Johnny Wilkinson.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Johnny Wilkinson's. Whoa. Yeah.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but you never know. What's your most memorable rugby moment?
I've actually got a couple, and it was the semi-final of the World Cup in 2014. I think, when that final whistle went, you just knew it was a really special squad, and it didn't matter who we were facing in that final, we were going to win it. Something special just happened in that moment. I can't explain. And also, I think beating New Zealand in 2017 in front of quite a big crowd, because the Lions tour was over here. So we played before the Maori game with a curtain raiser. That was a pretty epic time as well. Well,
listen, I think I think you're allowed two of the very, very best. Let's hope that the 12th of November, you'll have another memorable moment to add to those two. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of the whole nation, all of our listeners, everyone. We wish you and all the Red Roses the very best of luck, and we'll be cheering you on here from the UK. So that's all for this episode of the Rugby Podcast, supported by Fuller's London Pride. My thanks to Sarra, to Steve, and of course to Marlie Packer.
Yep, we'll be back next week, so be sure to follow us. Make sure you don't miss the next episode.
And remember, you can watch the full extended video podcast of today's episode at londonpridebeer.co.uk.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio, supported by Fuller's London Pride, official beer of Premiership Rugby. Support with pride.